Hey Dom, this is Dave Decide. Today we have another military update for you. I found this to be very interesting and I have a lot of words to share here. I also want to get into some legal action that may or may not happen surrounding said military thing, and of course I also want to get into some rude treatment that Jin got. So hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab resemblance, he's spilling mug merch, and let's get into it. I want to start with something much lighter and fun here. I think a lot of people tend to forget where the boys came from and a lot of the pain that they endured, especially the newer army. And I think at a certain point of success, especially when it appears like this person has gained success overnight, i.e. this is what everyone has said about BTS since Dynamite, and people can often look at that and think that they're overrated or undeserving of the success. But that's not the case with BTS. They have been at the scene for many, many years, and if you go back and watch several of their shows, you'll very quickly see that they have been mistreated and all that for their entire career. I think only now have they been actually treated like the celebrities that they are. And if you've been following BTS for a while, you'll know that they participated in a show called American Hustle Life. This was, in my opinion, one of the worst shows they could have done, but this was also, at the time, the boys did not receive much press, and so their options were pretty much to accept any TV program that will air for them to get more publicity. The show didn't really make sense for them as it was an American show, and oftentimes the boys couldn't really understand what the hosts were saying, and or the actions tend to be seen as rude from the American hosts. Even things like the host acting flirty is something that haters will make a compilation video about and piece together scenes from this show to show BTS being flirty with female hosts. And ultimately, I don't know how much the show actually helped them. Now, going back to cultural differences that the TV host had versus BTS, one of the main ones was being too rough. It's especially more sensitive in Korean culture for someone to be way too rough and touchy right out the gate, and especially if they're younger than you. Because age and respecting your elders is a big thing. One of the hosts that was goofing around and decided that it would be a good idea to hit Jin with his stuffed animal. The host's job at that moment was supposed to be coach BTS. And if you take these moments here and you think about if anyone would do this to BTS now, the answer is no. They wouldn't even dream of doing this. And the reason is respect. Now they would respect BTS so much that they would be afraid to do this. Jin smiled through it even though he was likely pretty mad, and Suga's reaction completely changed and he seemed quite upset that Jin was hit. Suga is such a sweetheart, and he is the type of person where if you insult him, he would be absolutely fine with it and does not care. But please don't insult his friends or anyone he cares about, because that is triggering to him. Suga was probably thinking of a way to articulate how this action was inappropriate, but doesn't really speak too much English. I think you're starting to see how this show was not appropriate for them to be doing at all. But I think it was the mass amount of these moments here, coupled with moments from older shows that made a lot of long-time armies really see that the members are often mistreated, and mistreated so poorly compared to the other artists. I am not sure why specifically BTS got that treatment, but that definitely was the case. And it wasn't just the hosts and stuff, but the industry itself seemed to not take BTS seriously. And I think it's because BTS would, right off the gate, very much disrupts the industry, since they were trying very hard to distinguish themselves, and sometimes their music even got banned. So when things like this happen, the industry and the general audience actually tends to not like you because the content is too weird, or they've been just seeing more of you everywhere and people don't like that. A simple example is people tend to come around when they see that this person that they don't like isn't going anywhere. I think Taylor Swift had this problem when she first started out, and maybe even now. But I think a lot of people just kept hearing and seeing her everywhere that they learned to kind of accept her presence, and from that maybe have even tried to listen to her music and realize it's actually really good. This tends to be the cycle for every artist that hits mainstream and then achieve longevity. But until they achieve that longevity, and sometimes even after they achieve that, they won't get the respect they deserve. BTS has also seemingly been highly disrespected by the Korean government, according to netizens. This debate as to whether or not BTS should be exempt from the mandatory BTS enlistment has been going on for centuries, basically. The biggest argument for BTS to not go, and the biggest concern the country seems to have with BTS going, is that it would cause a huge loss in the economy. BTS is currently responsible for 1% of the Korean economy, which sounds small, but it's trillions of Korean money. However, the argument that netizens have over this is that the exemption issue has never been over contribution to the economy, so that 1% doesn't matter. However, if you look at the people who get exempt, starting with athletes, the main reason why they get exempt is because they bring pride and representation to the country, and that is the same as economic contribution. In a world where cash is king, what is the point of representation and pride? It's so that people people think Korea is the #1 nation in the world, and that drives people to want to visit, which drives the economy. I would say the economic contribution is the only reason why someone should get exempt, aside from disability and stuff, obviously. What was most shocking was a news article that came out right at the end of August. The article claimed that the government had wanted to initiate a poll for everyone to vote, and to vote whether BTS should go or not. The idea here allegedly was never go 100% by what the poll had tallied, but go by the idea of what the public wanted. Korea is a democracy, so I guess they wanted public input. However, after a day, it was re-reported that the government was canceling the poll and had no plans of ever looking at that result or caring about that result. This is very frustrating because just when everyone felt there was a glimmer of hope, or not even a hope that BTS will get exempt, but just hope that this issue is done and over, it seemed like the government cannot make up their mind. They seem to want to drag this out, and this issue with dragging this out is that ultimately if it gets pulled too long, Jin will have to just go, in which case, what is the point of saying all this or having this debate? There have been some people online who have created a petition to try to get BTS exempt. The petition has garnered thousands of signatures, and it's quite interesting to see how many people are so passionate about this to even create it. The petition lists how the nation has been heavily using BTS and won't make a decision. It talks about how the conditions in which the military has for the idols and that dark side that has been well documented. And of course, one of the biggest claims is that the Busan Expo, in which they literally represent, has shown no support to help BTS out. I don't know how much they can actually do, but the idea that a city wants BTS to represent them, but the city can't help out in any way to try to get BTS to stick around, because this would benefit the expo as well. Let's say for argument's sake, BTS all enlist, and after 2 years, everyone just gets amnesia. They forget who BTS is, then having BTS at the expo at that point, representing the expo at that point, is literally useless, right? Why not at that point just pick a not famous person? The whole reason why they want BTS is because BTS is famous. So let them continue to be famous by allowing them to promote, work, and not enlist. Just my opinion. All this commotion going on, people are wondering what the members are thinking about this. Of course, the members might not be thinking much about it at all. There were several articles coming out when Jin was doing the movie premieres, and when asked about if he was going into acting, Jin responded that he literally had not considered it or thought about it, but has seen the rumors and articles. So there's no doubt the military would be something on Jin's mind, as there's so many articles, but that doesn't mean it's any concern to him right now. And I wanted to give a quote that Jin had mentioned and some kind of emotional words that would give some insight as to how he must be feeling right now. During the UN, Jin talked about a world of uncertainty, which is the exact position he is in right now. And during this time, the most important thing to have around you is yourself and the people who are close to you. And with that, you can form this message of loving yourself. And I think this is what he would say right now to anyone concerned over the news. But what do you think? How do you feel about Jin's rude treatment during his old show? How do you feel about the legal action or petition that is trying to be taken over the enlistment? And what do you think about how Jin is feeling about some of the changes and all that? Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks, just leave a comment right here. Love you, bye.